Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the League Racing TV YouTube channel for round 9 of Season 3 of TTML Division 3. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Carmentis. I'll be taking you through proceedings once again on a Thursday evening in this championship, and joining me once again in the commentary box this evening is TTG Conti himself. Conti, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Looking forward to Mexico.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a fun round, hopefully. Mexico has proved to be a really, really good racetrack, especially in terms of the actual game. It provides a lot of different twists and turns, so looks like we are going to be in for another good race, as it has been really all season long in Division 3. Every race so far this season has been a really, really good race to watch, so hopefully we get more of that tonight. But just before we get into proceedings, though, we're going to have a little bit of a chat quickly about championship permutations, because we're already at that point, even with 3 rounds to go. We're already thinking about the championship, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, and it's kind of new in Division 3, but yeah, with 3 races to go, including today's race, and F1 AMG isn't here today.
Yeah.
It's all up for the grabs for Old School.
It is, yeah. Like you say, it's very, very weird for that to be the case for Division 3. Even the first round that we saw in TTML, the first season of this championship in TTML back in the day, even though that was dominated by 3 drivers in Mishiro, F1 AMG at the time, and I believe it was Tejonis that was alongside as well in the TNL driver. Even though those are the 3 dominating, that championship still somehow went down to the final round, even though those 3 of those were so far ahead of the rest. This time around, though, F1 AMG missing a couple rounds, having a couple bad races in the past few rounds, and by contrast, Old School having a number of race victories already this season, has meant that Old School has pretty much run away with things now. He has a 51-point lead in the championship, and coming out of this round, he needs 66 points to secure the title. It's impossible at this point in the championship now for F1 AMG to get level on Old School on terms of wins now that he's not here tonight. So that means that, in that case at least, Old School has that covered in that case if they do end up finishing on the same amount of points, which it would be an astonishing achievement if F1 AMG is able to get back to that feat. But yeah, so he only needs to score 15 points tonight to secure himself the championship, which can be done with a 5th place finish or higher, and that is without scoring a fastest lap point or the 2 bonus points for pole position on top of that as well. So just a 5th place finish here for Old School tonight would secure him the championship, so you've got to look out for that tonight. And would you say, based on his season performance so far, that a top 5 is relatively comfortable for Old School?
Yeah, under normal circumstances, he should be able to get in the top 5 relatively easily. But yeah, my little spies caught something this afternoon, and there was talks about starting last. So if he does that, he makes it yeah, pretty difficult for him, because it is even though he's leading by a massive amount of points. It is a fast and competitive grid, and starting last could be nearly impossible to finish in 5th in the end.
Yeah, it is really, really fast. Despite the fact that Old School has got such a massive championship lead, it has been very competitive all the way through the field. It just seems to be that when we come to the end of the races, Old School's able to get that final 1% and get that race victory. Apart from last time out, really, where we saw Old School really dominate from the front at Singapore. It was an utterly dominant performance from Old School last time out, wasn't it? No one was able to get anywhere near him in terms of the race victory last time out. So, come to a completely different track. I still expect Old School to be at the front, like you say, but if he is going to start at the back, this track is going to be difficult to do so. It's relatively easy to overtake around this track, and it's more than likely that we will see a 2-stop strategy around this circuit because of how high the tyre wear is at this circuit. But despite that, it's going to be difficult for Old School to make up those paces if he starts at the back. So we'll wait and see if he does go ahead with that. And if we are assuming that he's going to be starting at the back and F1 AMG is not here, who do you think is the most likely candidate maybe to win this race?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. F1 AMG and Old School both leading the championship and are the only 2 race winners so far this season.
Yeah.
And behind that, it's really close. So you got a number of people. Nolan showed he's really fast. Kiki is a fast driver. Graham is doing great, although he isn't the fastest. He always ends up high in the standings.
Yeah.
You've got Steph who's doing great. Don't forget Jen, Funky Chicken, who's getting better race by race. So yeah, besides F1 AMG and Old School, it's really close and yeah, not easy to predict.
Yeah, really not easy to predict, and like you say, it's so bizarre to see that we get to the 9th round of the season and we've only had 2 winners, considering what happened in Division 3 last season. We had such a nut season this time around, about three or 4 months ago when that was going on. It was just such a crazy season with so many winners. This time around, the complete opposite. Funky Chicken, the man that we were talking about being an improving driver as the season's gone on, is the first person to start a lap here in an overcast qualifying session, so look out for that. I wonder if rain might play a part a little bit later on in this session, but he's heading through the first sector now, down that incredibly long pitch straight, through turns 1, 2 and 3, and down towards the end of the first sector. Then a 28 flat for the first sector, not the best we're going to see tonight. I expect someone to maybe be in a higher 27 at the end of that first sector as he heads through the middle part of the lap. Then quite technical this first part of the second sector, and now we head into the S's section. Obviously a reprofile since this track got refurbished in 2015, but still an incredibly technical part of the circuit as well. A lot more runoff than we usually have, but we had in the previous years, but even so, very difficult to get right. Now down into the new stadium section, instead of heading straight on and doing the full pelotada, we now head through what is usually a baseball stadium and head out the other side and only half of the pelotada as he comes out of the corner now. And towards the end of the lap, quite a long track in terms of distance. In terms of time though, a very short lap, and he comes across the line to do a 13.8 for the first lap in the session. Not a bad time for Funky Chicken, but you would imagine we're going to see people maybe into the lower reaches of the 13s by the end of this qualifying session. One of the McLarens is going to be next across the line behind him. Actually, it's Kelvin, who's just finished starting off his first lap, so we'll see what Nolan can do. So strong in qualifying all season long, hasn't been able to put it together in a race so far. Crosses the line and goes half a tenth of a second clear of Funky Chicken. Steph goes just in behind them, also on a 13.8, so as per usual, the midfield here is incredibly close. They're all on 13.8s at the moment, apart from Langfell, a little bit off the pace in 4th on a 14.6. I believe Old School has just crossed the line and has invalidated his first run in qualifying, as has Steve, who's invalidated his first run. We've got one of the Racing Point cars coming to the line, that's Flores, crosses the line a 15.2 for the Racing Point. Next across the line is Hero Joking to start his first lap in qualifying. I think David will follow suit fairly shortly afterwards as well. Jan actually coming to the line, P4 on a 14.2, so about half a second off the fastest of the session so far. So once again, 3 drivers who've been so close all season long, Nolan, Funky Chicken and Steph, all in the 13.8s.
Yeah, great banker. As you said, probably lap times are going to go down probably with half a second, I guess. But yeah, thing to look out for at this track as well, invalidations, and we had a couple of them in the first runs. Really easy to invalidate. You have to cut some corners, but yeah, if you do too much, you get punished, and your time will be taken away from you.
Yeah, very easy, like you say, to do that, especially in the middle part of the lap. It is so close to being flat out in most of that S section that if you just run slightly offline, you can just plain understeer off the circuit and lose time. Hero Joking currently on the lap, 15th on the grid, hasn't set a time so far. Had a podium in the first round of the season, and since then hasn't been able to emulate that performance. I don't think has finished in the top 5 since. Has a big wobble there coming out of the stadium section. Had a strong first sector, the middle sector not quite as strong as he heads to the end of the lap. It's a 14.4 to finish off, and most of that time was lost in the final part of the lap for the Ferrari driver, so still a lot of time for him to find as the lap goes on. P7 at the moment though, just ahead of Tom, who's 8th in the McLaren, who had his best result this time last week at Singapore. Had a pretty decent race, but a 2-stop strategy in the end didn't quite work out for him, so we'll see whether he can bounce back well tonight. David crosses the line, P8, another driver who has rapidly improved as the season's gone on, right in the thick of that battle at the moment for 3rd place in the standings. And while we talk about 3rd place in the standings, you mentioned earlier on that it is incredibly close in that battle. Just to let you guys know, 3rd down to 14th in the standings are separated by 32 points, so it's incredibly close for that battle for 3rd place. And what I was saying before we started the stream tonight is that Steph has now ended up in 3rd place in the standings. Steph has not really had a standout drive so far this season, really, has he? It's been at almost every race, if not every race so far this season. Not had a standout drive, but has been in the top 10 pretty consistently, and that's the key with a championship this short, to turn up every week and be able to be consistent.
Yeah, if you're there every week, you can have a little slip up. But yeah, you see, consistency is key, and you don't have to end up on the podium every week to get up high in the championship. Just be there and do your thing.
Yeah, exactly, and that is how Steph has ended up in third place. Nolan has held that third place in the standings pretty much in the first round of the season. He's held that as the season's gone on. He's now dropped down into fourth place, having not taken part, I believe, this time last week, or crashing out. I actually fully can't remember a lot from Singapore, but I believe Nolan crashed out at this time last week at Singapore, so he's down to fourth, just ahead of Martin Bell. Noticeable absence tonight is Martin Bell, fifth in the standings, level on points with Kiki, who's off the back of his second podium of the season this time last week at Singapore as well. So he's a man that's on the up at the moment, and you've got to say Kiki, another driver, we saw this really from him last season as well, where he has a lot of raw speed, just can't quite get the result together.
Yeah, Kiki really, it's a really fast driver in quali, but in the race as well. But still has some rough edges, and if he can get rid of those and get his races together, because he tends to have some unlucky crashes. He can be up there for fighting for the championship, but yeah, speed is there. Consistency, not yet.
Yeah, not yet, like you say, but definitely he has the opportunity, he has the possibility of being a championship contender, maybe in the next season, or being a race winner at least, maybe by the end of this season as well. We'll wait and see. He's just coming around to finish his first lap, and I believe Funky Chicken is just behind him on the road, setting a lap time. Actually, that might be Sean on the mediums. It is Sean on the mediums. Kiki goes fifth, just ahead of his teammate. Sean crosses the line, only 15th on the grid on a 15.8 on the mediums. We'll wait and see what he can do when he puts the soft tyres on. Funky Chicken will be next across the line, but he's invalidated. Was 0.2 of a second up on his time though, so it's looking like a strong lap up to that point for the Red Bull driver. So we'll wait and see whether on his next one he can get through and finish the lap without invalidating. He dives into the pit lane at the last moment. Nolan has also invalidated despite going 0.3 faster in the first sector alone, so there's a lot more pace in the Alfa Romeo that's currently on provisional pole position. We'll wait and see if anyone else is able to improve. Jan, the highest person up at the moment, has just started the lap. He's improved by nearly 0.1 of a second in the first sector, so it's looking like a strong first sector from Jan. At the moment though, a lot of the drivers seem to be setting very, very similar first sector times. It seems to be all about that final sector where people seem to be losing the majority of their time.
Yeah, second sector and final sector. Second sector is just all about confidence. Yeah. And last sector, yeah, who dares to be late on the brakes to win some time there. But yeah, if you're too late, it can mess you up as well. And let's talk about, because I don't know him, maybe you're familiar with him. Secret DJ Jill, his first race and his first lap out at 13.9 is great stuff.
Yeah, really good stuff. I don't think I've come across this guy before, unless I've seen him in an odd race or something like that. But I don't think I have actually been there. As Jan has now just done another 13.8, just to make it even closer at the front of the field once again. Pops himself up into fourth place. So a good improvement from Jan, who had such a horrible start to this season. Still 11th in the standings, but still has a great opportunity of at least maybe, or possibly still getting into third in the standings if he can continue the run of form he's had in the last few rounds. So we'll wait and see. Secret Jill just coming around the final corner, crosses the line, goes provisional pole. Just ahead of his Alfa Romeo teammate, only by 0.004 of a second, but still a great second lap from Secret DJ Jill to go into that provisional pole position. Good lap from him then on provisional pole on a 13.7, the first person into the sevens, but we've already seen that Nolan and Funky Chicken can go considerably faster. They just haven't been able to keep the car on the road on their second runs. Steph is on another lap as well, still looking for that really strong result so far this season. He's also invalidated though in the middle part of the lap and was 0.6 of a second up, so that is massive if that is genuine without that invalidation playing any part. If he could go 0.6 faster, that could be ominous for the rest of the session if he's able to keep the car on the road in his next one. Steve, another driver that's invalidated his next run in qualifying, so he won't be improving. David, I think, is the furthest person along the lap. Actually, he's just finishing the first sector, but he's a 10th up in the first sector, so he's found quite a bit of time as well. At the moment, Hero Jokin has just started a lap as well. We've got a few more drivers on laps at the moment. Stinner, a new driver here into Division 3, his first race tonight, I believe, as well. He's racing in the Alpha Tauri as a reserve driver, filling in for F1 AMG. He's invalidated his next one, but he's currently just behind his Alpha Tauri teammate Langfell. Uncle Ben's Rice looking to complete a lap as well, but he has also invalidated. So a lot of drivers, like you mentioned earlier on, invalidating lap times. So easy to do around this track, and it's so crucial to how your session runs if you can keep the car on the road. David at the moment has kept the car on the road for the majority of the lap, but hasn't improved in the middle part, and is looking very, very cautious in this final part of the lap as well. So it's going to come around the final corner. This isn't going to challenge the top times unless it's an amazing final sector. Crosses the line at 14.1. Found a good amount of time, but goes up into 6th place, and there's a bit of a gap now between the top 5 and the rest of the field at the moment.
Yeah, it's three tenths between the top five and the rest of the field, but even though just outside of the top five, it's really close as well. So for everybody's last stint, one mistake could cost you multiple positions, or just where you get the edge and the
Yeah.
confidence in the corners, you can win multiple positions. So yeah, still everything to drive for in this qualifying session.
Yeah, like you say, everything to drive for. Still plenty of time to go in this session. Nolan is back out on the track, is currently on a lap, so we'll follow. Currently second on the grid, has picked up a couple poles already this season. Has probably been on raw speed in qualifying, maybe the fastest driver this season with the amount of pole positions he's picked up. Or a big wobble there in the S's. That's going to cost him a lot of time, and he misses the apex of the next S's corner as well and invalidates. So Nolan not quite feeling that confident in the middle part of the lap, despite being fast, doesn't have the confidence to really keep the car on the road and keep it hooked. So that's another lap time invalidated for the Alfa Romeo driver. Still an Alfa Romeo 1-2. Funky Chicken and Steph still yet to improve on their first runs in qualifying. Funky Chicken has just started his next lap. Kiki, another driver that has invalidated. Unfortunately, we've had two people leave the lobby, so hopefully we don't have a problem with the lobby itself. Hopefully they are able to join back and get ready to race before we get going. So we'll wait and see. But Kiki, another person that's invalidated, currently 7th on the grid, just ahead of his Renault teammate Steve, who is 8th. Graham in 9th place once again, right up there at the moment in the Haas. Hirojoki in 10th. And one person I just want to mention as well, Flores, especially in Singapore we notice it as well, but here as well, at least in qualifying speed, seems to have improved quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Season one, season two, he finished at the back a lot of times, but this season he's really been improving. He's had multiple top 10 finishes, and I believe P6 or 7 as well. So yeah, really improving this season, stepping up and getting faster and faster.
Yeah, definitely getting faster and faster. Like you say, it has been a really strong season for Flores this season compared to this time last season as well. So let's see if he can continue on that upward trend and try and bag a good top 10 finish here tonight. It is possible. When starting outside the top 10 here is by no means a disadvantage. It is a very good opportunity if you're starting outside the top 10 here to go on that alternate strategy and try something different. Jan has invalidated, meanwhile, coming out of turn 3. So yet again, another driver invalidating their runs. And apart from Secret DJ Jill and Jan as well, no one really has been able to improve properly on their first runs. No one's been able to do it. It's really difficult for a lot of drivers seemingly to keep the car on the road, which means that penalties could play a major part in this race later on if people were barely able to keep the car on the road during qualifying. Uncle Ben's Rice has backed off on his next run in qualifying. Obviously had a poor first sector. Sean up by nearly half a second in the first sector alone, but remember his first time was on the medium, so that is going to be a little bit unrepresentative. And in the middle part of the lap, Sean is having to take a lot. He's taking it very cautiously. He's really backing off. The car looks very twitchy at the rear for the Red Bull driver, so not looking very confident in the middle part of the lap at the moment. So we'll wait and see what the time is. It's 1.1 seconds up now, so this could put him maybe close to that battle for the bottom end of the top 10 at the moment. I think it's going to put him maybe ahead of Tom and ahead of Flores, right in that thick of that battle with the two Renault drivers, as Steph has just crossed the line meanwhile and has gone into a 13.4, so he has been able to find the time now on his third run in qualifying, maybe his last one in qualifying as well. Not long left to go, but Steph has now put it on provisional pole, a 13.4. That is much more like it from the Williams driver.
Yeah, this is what we saw from Steph in the later half of the last season. Really fast driver in quali and in the race as well. So yeah, this is what we used to see last season. Didn't really show it this season. But yeah, this could be it. This could be his step up at getting a better feeling.
Hopefully that is the case for him. I think he's been a bit downbeat this season, has Steph, about how it's gone. He's been a little bit frustrated that he's not been able to really pick up on the form he had this time last season. But still, this is a great way to hopefully secure third place in the championship for him if he can pull this off. I think Graham is just coming around to start his next lap in qualifying. Kelvin's crossed the line, has gone P13, just ahead of his McLaren teammate who has rejoined the lobby, so hopefully he's able to get back into his car and go out for a final run. We'll wait and see. Just waiting for the people to start their final runs now, although I have noticed a lot of people only just coming out of the pits now. Yeah, Jan second then in the Mercedes, a 13.6, but crucially for him, on his second lap on the same set of tyres and around Mexico, running an extra lap in qualifying on the soft compound tyres is a real disadvantage.
Yeah, it is. Tyre degradation is so high at this track, so soft tyres don't really last that long. So two hot laps on one set of tires, as you say, is gonna make massive differences in your strategy.
It really is. There's kind of three main strategies for this track, depending on how your tyre wear is. If you're starting outside the top 10, you can run a medium hard, but it all depends on whether you get clean air and are able to pump in good lap times. And then if you're starting inside the top 10, it's either soft, medium, medium, or soft, medium, soft, depending on how confident you are on tyre wear. Based on what Jan's done here in qualifying, I'm imagining he's feeling pretty confident on his tyre wear and is deciding to go for maybe a soft, medium, soft strategy. We will wait and see. Sean has retired from the session in the pit lane. He won't be able to get back out for another time, unfortunately. So 12 is the best he can get out of the session. Funky Chicken, early front runner, is now coming onto his next lap and has actually decided to bail out of it at the end of the lap. So Funky Chicken was right at the front, only 5th place on the grid for him at the moment. So not the end of qualifying he would have wanted.
No, no, definitely not. And yeah, his first run was his fastest. As yeah, just like him, many other drivers, too many invalidations around this track.
Yeah, just too many, like you say, not able to get in a good enough lap time. And this time around, Funky Chicken, with a great start to the qualifying and not able to replicate that at the end. Secret DJ Jill has just started his next one with his Alfa Romeo teammate of Nolan just behind him on the road. Secret then to the end of the first sector, slightly up in the first sector. Nolan slightly up in the first sector as well. They're very, very similar in the first sector, actually incredibly close in times. As Secret DJ Jill then comes through the middle part of the lap. We'll follow him as he continues on. I think Graham is on another lap on the same set of tyres, currently 9th on the grid, so we'll see where he can end up. But Secret DJ Jill looking very confident in the middle part of the lap, throwing that Alfa Romeo around quite nicely, keeps it on the road easily as well as he heads to the end of the second sector, and he's still not found any time though in the middle part of the lap, interestingly, so he's not been able to improve in the middle part. It's not going to be anywhere near enough to get him close to Steph unless his final sector is incredibly strong. As he heads then down towards the peril retarder, Graham crosses the line, meanwhile improves slightly, but goes ahead of both Renaults in the process. Secret DJ Jill comes across the line, and it is a 13.6, improves by a tenth of a second. Isn't able to beat Steph. Nolan crosses the line, another 13.6, still not able to get close enough to Steph, so a tenth and a half in it at the moment. Steph looking comfortable at the front of the field. We have to wait now for the two Renaults to set their lap times. Flores on a lap as well, currently 11th on the grid. We'll see what he can do. He'll be next to cross the line. David's crossed the line on 13.9, stays 6th on the grid comfortably at the moment. Flores around the final corner. Can he improve to get himself inside the top 10? Crosses the line. No, he can't. He hasn't found any time in the end. Across the line comes Hero Joking to go P7. Steve crosses the line, goes second with a great improvement. 0.6 of a second he found in that final run to go onto the front row, and Kiki not able to replicate that. I think only goes P6 in the end. So finally, for the first time this season, Steph is on pole position. Now a great opportunity for Steph to maybe pick up that first win.
Yeah, yeah, and he really needs it. But Steve as well. Steve was doing really good last race as well, but invalidated his final run. So seeing him in P2 is something different as well.
Yeah, really something different as well. Nolan in third place on the grid, then ahead of Jan in fourth, and Secret DJ Jill on debut. A good debut for him, fifth on the grid. Then it's Funky Chicken, Kiki, David, Hero Jokin, and Graham round off the top 10. Flores in 11th in a great spot. Sean, Kelvin, Tom, Langfell, Stinner, Uncle Ben's Rice. The 17 drivers that set times, and Old School, as you said he would, is starting at the back of the grid, having not set a time in qualifying. So that is going to be obviously another driver we have to pay attention to in this race. It's going to be a very interesting race to watch, this one, in terms of strategy and in terms of who's going to be the fastest in terms of race pace. And it's a little bit overcast here in this race, so I'm wondering whether rain could play a part in it.
Yeah, I hope. Actually, I really hope it does. I mean, it's a hard track on the dry, but in the wet, it just, yeah. I've raced on this track twice in the wet, and it was great racing.
Yeah. I have raced on this track in the wet conditions as well, and that was a really, really fun race as well. This track, incredibly difficult, especially that middle part of the lap, in the wet conditions, to find a flow. And even see the apexes, especially if it's raining quite heavily, it is quite difficult to manage. So that just adds another extra element of challenge to the race if the rain does come in. We haven't had a lot of rain races so far this season. In fact, barely any have been affected heavily by rain, apart from Silverstone, really. That's kind of the only race this season where we've seen rain, and Australia, of course, the first round of the season. That's kind of the only places we've seen rain really play a part in the actual proceedings of the race. So we'll wait and see if that plays a part once again today. We'll also have to look as well at the strategies outside of the top 10, because here the strategies outside of the top 10 could be crucial for this race, and everyone outside the top 10 has gone for the mediums, apart from Old School at the back of the grid, gone for a set of hard. So Old School going very long in his first stint.
Yeah, trying something different, and Yeah, probably he's going for the hard to soft stint, hard to soft. But if he wants to do it safe, it's gonna be a hard medium strategy for him. But yeah, he's trying something else, starting from the back, starting on the hards. Yeah, who knows how it plays out for him, and yeah, and the other drivers as well, because safety cars tend to be here. Although we haven't seen many safety cars in Division 3. But yeah, it could be around this track, so who knows? It could play a part.
Yeah, definitely could play a part, like you say. And if Old School can get those hard tyres to about lap 24, then he can go to the softs towards the end of the race. If he can't really get any further than lap 20, he's going to have to go for the mediums. Hero Jokin and Graham have come into contact underneath the formation lap, so their tyres are going to be cold when they get to the start of this race. That could cost them a little bit at the start of this one if they're not able to get off the line quickly. And that's one thing to note about this track as well. The run down towards turn 1, one of the longest on the calendar, actually I think the longest on the calendar. So starting on the front row might not actually be a great place to be at the start of this race.
No, people tend to you tend to defend your position, and especially at the start, it could get chaos because the slipstream is pretty strong. So yeah, maybe second starting row would be my preferable place to start.
Could be the one. Yeah, we'll wait and see. If Nolan and Jan are able to use their starting position to the best of their advantage, can they get to the front of the field at the first corner? That's going to be crucial to see. It tightens up a lot through turns 2 and 3, so expect to see possible contact in towards those corners. It is very common around this track for that to happen, especially with the long run in towards turn 1. Everyone then lining up on the grid. Just wait for Old School to line up into his spot at the back of the field. It's a Williams leading the way and a Williams holding up the rear of the field, so we'll wait and see how this race is going to play out. Here we go then. The lights are going to come on hopefully ahead of the drivers. I've got a little bit of a delay. I hope that isn't some sort of problem with the lobby. We'll wait for the lights to come on ahead of the drivers. Steph and Steve then on the front row. Steph with his first pole position of the season. It does unfortunately look like that we might have a bit of a problem with the lobby. The lights aren't coming on ahead of the drivers, so it looks like we may be having a lobby restart, unfortunately. This is not obviously what we want to see going into the 9th round of the season, but it's just kind of the way it is really so far this season. We've been quite lucky with not having to do many restarts so far. I think we've only had one so far this season, but it is quite common with this game that this does happen. So unfortunately it just looked like we might be getting a lobby restart.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, never mind.
Oh.
The lights are coming on, so Tom has left the session and the lights are coming on ahead of the drivers. So who's going to get the best start in towards turn 1? A really long delay, but the lights are out and away they go. And Steph from pole position's going to hold it. Jan's had an atrocious start from 4th on the grid. He's already under pressure from Funky Chicken, who's got up into 4th place. Nolan using that 3rd place spot on the grid quite nicely. He's going to split the middle between Steve and Steph. Steph has been swamped off the line. He's going to try and hold it around the outside though. Is Steph in the Williams, Nolan in the middle. Steve on the outside for turn 2, and Nolan from 3rd on the grid has done that absolutely perfectly. He's up into the lead of the race. Steve though trying to come down the outside of the pair of them coming up towards turn 4. Has he got the run? He's alongside Steph coming into the braking zone. Nolan's going to hold the lead around the outside. Goes Steve in towards turn 4. Inside for 5. Steph's still trying to hold it for the double apex hairpin, but I think Steve's going to have this one maybe. Oh no, Steph is going to try and drive all the way around the outside of the corner, and I think he's almost been able to pull that off. They're going to go side by side in towards the S's. Steph down the inside. They're still side by side as they head through the S's, but finally Steve has to give the place up. He's down into 3rd place, Steph up into 2nd, but crucially both of them outdone off the start by Nolan, who's into the race lead in the Alfa Romeo. Jan's recovered to 4th, Secret Tito Jill holds 5th, and Funky Chicken holds 6th. Graham, the biggest gainer on the start of the race, up to 7th place.
Yeah, great racing from Steve and Steph. It's kind of a tongue breaker, these two side by side. But yeah, great racing. Whole first sector side by side, second sector, and luckily Steve just bailed out because going through the S's side by side is a guaranteed crash, and yeah, especially in my experiences. But great racing from these guys.
Yeah, really, really good racing. Further down the field, there's been a bit of a split at the back of the field. The two Racing Points have not had great starts, especially Flores has dropped from that 11th place spot on the grid, I think, to about down to 14th or 15th on the road at the moment, so he's not had a good start. Old School's up a few places in this race in the Williams in the back of the field on those hard compound tyres. I'm wondering whether Flores has maybe picked up some damage somewhere. Langfeld's come into the pit lane at the end of the first lap to repair his front wing. So he's obviously been caught up in an incident in the start of this race. And down at the back of the field is Tom, having just rejoined the lobby. So hopefully he is back in control of his car. Flores does look damage-free, but I think he maybe came into contact with Langfell somewhere. He's dropped 4 places since the start of this race, so it's not been a good start from a good qualifying position, unfortunately, for the Racing Point driver. Nolan, though, leads the way. Timed that start to absolute perfection. Was a second ahead of Steph, but almost immediately Steph is now right onto the tail of the Alfa Romeo driver again. So whilst the starts worked out nicely, qualifying proved that maybe Steph is the fastest person on raw speed here. So now Nolan has got a real fight on his hands.
Yeah, it looks like it, and as Steph can hold on until the DRS, we probably see him overtaking Nolan. And if they're smart, because Steve seems to be struggling a little bit to follow their pace, but yeah, if these two work together, they can create a massive gap to P3 and leave everyone behind them.
And interestingly, already Steve has lowered his ERS. He was derating coming down the pit straight and down the second straight already, and we're only just starting lap 3. So that early battle between him and Steph has cost them a lot of ERS. I mean, I say that, Steph has more ERS than our race leader at the moment, so actually Matt Williams is looking comfortable when he's all over the back of Nolan already coming onto lap 3. So Steph looking incredibly strong at this point in the race. Steve with no ERS is going to be a sitting duck on the straights if anyone behind him was close enough, but yet again Jan in the early phases of the race has got a queue of cars forming up behind him after that poor start. Managed to hold on to 4th place, but he's not doing enough at the moment. Already our race leader Nolan with a time penalty, and Steph looking to go for the move already down the inside in towards the stadium section. There's contact between the two of them. Nolan's going to spin around. Steph is going to get the move done. I don't know if Nolan ended up hitting the wall, but Steph kind of left the car half-hearted down the inside, didn't really commit to the move, and Nolan kind of turned across him, so that was kind of 50-50 in that sense, and that has now put Steve right on the back of Steph once again.
Yeah, I think Nolan didn't expect Steph being there with his front wing and front tire, because he turned in like normally, and that's not Nolan to do when he's battling. He can battle really clean. So yeah, but yeah, one loser, that's Nolan, who spun, and Steve making advances of it, because he's low on ERS. He can save up now if he can stay in DRS of Steph.
Yeah, he is. Meanwhile, further down, Kiki and Nolan battling past Sean. So Sean down to 11th place. Nolan back into the top 10. But Sean trying to come back at him on those medium compound tyres. Has Jan gone for a spin? Yes, he has. Jan has had a spin at turn 4. And that's 3rd place position. So I don't know if he's had contact maybe with the other Alfa Romeo of Secret DJ Jill or not. They were battling. I don't know if DJ Jill has got any damage on his front wing. He doesn't have any visible damage. So I don't know if it's just a spin or maybe a slight bit of contact. But now Jan drops down the field as well. And Nolan already with another penalty. So you can tell that Nolan maybe has hit that phase once again where he's kind of given up on this race. You do see that a lot this season, where Nolan has something go wrong and he almost kind of gives up from that point onwards, and it just falls apart for him. So 9th place already with 2 penalties, with no one else picking up penalties so far. It's going to be a massive problem for him as this race goes on. Jan now under masses now of pressure behind, with Sean and Kelvin right behind, and Flores has now caught all these guys, and Sean actually runs into the back of Jan there as Jan's trying to get in the pit lane and can't, because Sean's up the inside. Jan's tyres, of all people to suffer on the soft compound tyres, I was not expecting it to be Jan into the pit lane at the end of lap 4. And interestingly, Secret DJ Jill also into the pit lane early on for a set of medium compound tyres. I don't know if he's had a front wing change, possibly by the looks of things. He's into the pit so for a set of medium tyres at the end of lap 4, which is obviously, it's a 2-stop strategy around this track, but that is still very early.
Yeah, even for a 2-stop strategy, it's really early. But Jill indeed had a front wing change, and Jan, yeah, probably the extra run on his soft tires cost him, and yeah, if your tires overheat here, it's a real struggle to get the temperatures down, especially in sector 2. So yeah, maybe that's why he pitted so early as he did.
That is possibly the case, like you say, yeah. So into the pit lane, it's come out in 17th, just ahead of Langfell, obviously pitted early on for that damage. So it's already a lot of big players have been kind of taken out of the running in this race so far. So much has gone on. Steph now our race leader, but he's also picked up a time penalty. So penalties could play, like we said in qualifying, penalties could play a big part in this race, but Steph just continuing to disappear now at the front of the field. Is already 2.2 seconds clear of Steve once again, who was still 1.6 seconds clear of Funky Chicken, but Funky Chicken has got a queue of cars behind him now. David, the first car behind, has literally no ERS at all, but is still going to go for the move down towards turn 1, down the inside of Funky Chicken into the braking zone. He's going to lock up a little bit, runs a bit deep into the corner, but gets the move done. So David making up where his teammate lost that place. He's now up into third place though. Is Funky Chicken going to have a run back at him down towards turn 4? No, he's not. He's going to stick him behind. Hero Jokin's actually going to have a run at him in towards turn 4 with a great run coming off at turn 3 down the inside, and then Hero Jokin up to 5th. So with the extra ERS, he didn't use the ERS he had to defend, and Funky Chicken, because of that, lost 2 places, and that just goes to show the power of the ERS and the DRS at this circuit.
Yeah, it does. Really, really powerful. But yeah, David is almost out of it as well, and with Hero Jokin behind him and Funky Chicken right behind that, he needs to be careful to not get the same as Funky Chicken and get overtaken by 2 people. But look at Old School, he's up to 11th already.
Yeah. On the hard compound tyres as well. He's passed almost all of the medium runners, which I find absolutely bizarre that he's been able to keep up and pass the medium runners. The only mediums in front of him are Sean and Kelvin, and Sean does have a penalty. Secret DJ Jill now has a penalty. So a lot of big players making mistakes early on, picking up penalties at the moment. Graham into the pit lane, interestingly. So Graham has come in earlier than everyone around. This is more like a regular pit stop you would see here. And this could be good for Graham, especially with the fact that David, Hero Jokin and Funky Chicken are all fighting quite hard. If Graham can come in, put a set of medium tyres on, get some clean air, he could jump a few places, and because he is penalty free at the moment, he still has a great opportunity at a podium here, as just catching Funky Chicken there, having a massive moment. Coming out of turn 3, it seems like the Red Bull man has burnt through his soft compound tyres.
Yeah, that's what battling does to your tyres. They just heat up and you burn through them and you need new ones. But yeah, it wouldn't be the first time we see Graham gaining multiple positions on penalties. It's a very clean driver. So if I remember correctly, he did it last race as well, won 3 or 4 positions because he didn't pick up a penalty. So yeah, who knows? He's got 8 seconds of clean air. Just put in those laps, nurse those tires, and he's in a great position at the end of the race.
Yeah, I mean, the penalty situation is what gave him a great result at Monza, obviously picking up that 2nd place finish there, and that was his best result of the season so far. So, see, maybe here we might be on for a possible another podium here at the moment. His pace is very, very strong, sticking to the back of this queue, and all the people that he was around have decided not to come in, interestingly. They're all staying out on the track, so none of the soft tyre runners have come into the pit lane just yet. Nolan has also stayed out, and so has Kiki, so they're all extending a bit longer in this race, which is quite interesting to see that they're not all coming in and reacting to Secret DJ Jill and Graham at the moment. Kiki, though, under pressure from Sean, who, despite a lack of ERS himself as well, on the medium tyres is going to look down the inside of the Renault driver, who just doesn't seem to have the pace of his teammate here today. And Sean is going to get the move run around the outside of turn 2, but they make contact on the exit of 3, and that has just gifted a couple of places to Kelvin and Old School. And Old School's going to have a run at Kelvin here as well, maybe in towards turn 4. Can't quite get the move done. But that little bit of contact there between Sean and Kiki has put them down a number of places, actually. Kiki now about to get overtaken by Tom, who left the session earlier on and has already worked his way back up into 11th place. The medium tyre is clearly already the better tyre. Kiki's dropping like a stone, and Kelvin's now up to 7th, and Old School already up to 8th.
Yeah, on the hard tyres, he almost passed every... If he passes Kelvin, I'm sorry, he passed all the medium runners, and that's incredibly, yeah, just great stuff from him. But Kiki needs to get into the pits now, along with some other soft runners, because their times are just plummeting at the moment.
They really are. The problem here, though, for Kiki is that his teammate Steve has come into the pit lane to react to Steph coming in. He's decided to come in anyway, but he might get a little bit held. Let's see where Steve comes out relative to Graham. They were about 4 seconds apart, I believe, about 3 seconds apart, sorry, by the time Graham came into the pit lane. That gap has come down quite considerably, actually. Graham is going to be much closer now coming down this straight. Obviously, it's going to have about half the gap between himself and Steve, so there is no doubt that when they come into the pit lane, Hero Joking, David and Funky Chicken are all going to get jumped here by Graham, and possibly Secret DJ Jill as well, who even had a front wing change. So staying out a bit longer is going to cost some of these soft runners. The only soft runner at the moment that seems to have any sort of pace left in his tyres is Hero Joking, who's got past Funky Chicken and David and has now broken DRS range to them.
Yeah, but probably he's gonna suffer as well because those lap times aren't going up; they're all going down at the moment. So um, yeah, not good. They really have to change the tires, and I'm really curious to see because Langfell pit early. Really curious to see what he's gonna do. Is he gonna put on the mediums for an extra stop, or is he gonna put on the hards and just go on to the end?
I imagine surely he's got to go for the hard compound tyres here as Hirojokin and Funky Chicken are into the pits, as is Nolan. Interestingly low, of all people, I'm actually not surprised, but David has stayed out. So we'll wait and see what he does. I wonder if David is going to go for another one of his audacious strategies here. Maybe try a soft hard strategy and see how it pays off for him. But considering the fact he started at the front of the field and Old School started dead last on the hards, they're only 6 seconds apart. So that is not a big enough gap for David to really make this strategy work at this point in the race. It's going to be a long race, I think, for him. As out the pit lane comes Nolan behind Jan. He's on another set of softs, though, interestingly, as Nolan. So he's gone for something a bit different. But Langfell's going to get the move done on Nolan into turn 1. Nolan's going to try and hold it around the outside of the AlphaTauri and does so. Gets up into 16th place. Still has those 6 seconds hanging over him. But it's gone for something a little bit different. Hirojokin and Funky Chicken then came out behind Graham and Secret DJ Jill. So Graham here has jumped a number of positions and has pretty much jumped himself into 3rd place.
Yeah, he did, and still didn't pick up a penalty. So those 2 laps longer on the softs really cost Hero Joke and a Funky Chicken in the end. And I wonder if David is gonna do something similar as Bahrain. No, he's coming in now.
He's coming
I thought
in.
maybe he's gonna try a one stop from soft to medium.
He's going soft hard, actually. I see a hard tyres coming out of the pit lane, so he's going for the one stop from the soft to the hard compound tyres. So he is going to come out behind the people he was racing with there. On that lap alone, he was about 1.2 seconds slower than Old School, who was on a set of hards. So David's tyres were finished by the time he was coming into the pit lane. So David comes out onto the track. He's going to be behind Funky Chicken, but I think still just ahead of Nolan. So that's at least somewhat good for his race. And Nolan, obviously on the soft compound tyres, is going to be much faster. Jan, though, is about to overtake Nolan. He's going to breeze past him towards turn 1. Nolan, though, is going to try and outbrake him around the outside and does so. Holds that 15th place. David is Nolan's next target, but David, interestingly, then going to the end of the race on this set of tyres, trying something a little bit different. So we'll wait and see how that pans out for him. Now, all of a sudden, we're only 11 laps into this race, and Old School has gone from last to first, so he's already completed the challenge that he set himself into the lead, into the lead of the race. Kelvin is the only medium runner at the moment that can keep up with him, and he's barely doing that at the moment. Tom has worked his way past Flores and Sean, and is now up into 3rd. And crucially now for Steph, Steph has caught all these cars, so if he wants to win this race, he's got to clear these guys quickly.
Yeah, but he's in a great position. I mean, he's got Uncle Ben's behind him, who can keep Graham off of his back. He's only 1.8 seconds behind Stina, and yeah, I don't know if some of these guys are going for the medium hard strategy. They're probably gonna pit next lap or the lap after. So yeah, I don't think he has to pass them all.
No, he definitely doesn't have to pass them all out as it stands. His main thing is he wants to pass Old School before Old School pits, because if he can't get past Old School and they pit around the same time, then they're basically on the same strategy towards the end. So he's got to try and get through some of these cars as quickly as he can. He's already passed Flores. He's immediately onto the back of Sean, but he's not going to be close enough into the braking zone for Ford to get that move done. So he has to stick in behind the Red Bull driver for a time being. He might have a move maybe in towards turn 6, but just can't quite get the traction out of 5 to have a look down the inside. So stays at 5th place for the time being then. Steve not quite closing in on Stinner as quickly as he needs to really play a factor in this race, but still looking comfortable in a net 2nd place. Graham's net 3rd place, though, is starting to come under a little bit of pressure because Secret DJ Jill was overtaken by Hero Joking on that previous lap, and all of a sudden Hero Joking looking pretty strong at this point in the race.
He does, and as Steph passed Sean now, so he's only 3.5 seconds behind Old School now, doing good. But yeah, as you say, Hero Joken, I haven't seen really outstanding things of him this season, but this is probably a track he likes because he's flying. Doesn't matter if he's on the softs or the mediums, he's having fun and great pace so far.
Yeah, I mean, as we say that, he just picked up a time penalty, so it might have cursed him just a little bit. But he's now right up behind Graham, but Graham's right up behind Uncle Ben's right. So Graham's going to move down the inside, get the move done on the racing point. Is up into 8th. Hero Joker's going to try and follow him through down the inside. Uncle Ben's right is going to hold the place maybe into turn 2. No, he's not. He's going to back out of the move. So Hero Joker gets the move done on the racing point driver as well. And now Secret DJ Jill in the Alfa Romeo right up behind, but he does have DRS actually. Sorry, he's going to go down to the outside towards turn 4, and he will get that move done quite easily. Then up into 10th place goes the Alfa Romeo driver. But Hero Joker now with that penalty still puts him under pressure from Funky Chicken behind, who's still one of the only drivers in that group of cars to yet pick up a penalty along with Graham. So that's going to stand good for him at the moment. Graham now though 4 seconds behind Steve, who is now in a very good position because Steph has just picked up his 2nd penalty.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good for him. 6 seconds. He is fast at the moment, Steph, but he really needs to extend the gap to pick up this win.
Yeah, he really does. He's got to keep pushing as much as he is, and he's not really closing in on Kelvin quickly enough. Kelvin, got to say, doing a decent enough job of sticking to the back of Old School on the medium tyres, doing a good job of holding on, and is pulling away from the rest of the medium runners quite considerably because of it. So, working nicely at the moment for Kelvin, despite him having a penalty as well. Steve is now catching up to the back of this queue of cars. Hero Jokin has got the move done on Graham down the pit straight, so he moves past the Haas driver and up into 8th place on the road, and net 3rd place once everyone makes their pit stops. So, good race so far from Hero Joking despite that penalty. Nolan meanwhile is going to try and get the move done on Funky Chicken and does so as they both get past Uncle Ben's right. Nolan gets past Funky Chicken as well. Funky Chicken might come back at him down towards turn 4 but isn't close enough, doesn't go for the move. But one thing to say about Nolan on these soft compound tyres, already 3 laps in onto his 4th lap on this stint on these soft compound tyres, you've got to say he's not really made enough progress so far.
No, he isn't. On the soft tyres you just want to get back up front as soon as you can, because they're gonna probably, this is the point where they're slowly starting to die off, and your pace isn't gonna improve on these tires. So you want to get clear of as many people as you want before that happens. Yeah, because he probably isn't gonna make it on medium tires after this stint. So you need some pace on those hards as well.
Yeah, definitely is. Into the pit lane becomes Sean and Tom. They're both in, which frees up Steve nicely. He passes Flores, so that's 3 places in about 1 corner for the Renault driver. That's worked out quite nicely for him. He's 5 seconds behind Steph though, so he's still almost out of penalty range from the Williams man. He's got to try and close in while Steph is being held up a little bit behind Kelvin at this point in the race. He's got to try and close back in. Hero Jokin as well has got to try and close in on the back of this battle and drag Graham with him. But at the moment, Hero Jokin is going to lose that 3rd place in this race to Graham as it stands. So still a long way to go and all to play for, but at the moment it's looking pretty set to who the top 2 in this race are. They're quite comfortably clear ahead of the rest of the field at the moment. So could we possibly, I don't want to jinx it because the last time I did this I jinxed it, but could we possibly see a new race winner this evening?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say we're definitely gonna see a new race winner tonight. Not jinxing anything. As Steve now really close to Kelvin, he really closed the gap quickly around this lap. But yeah, we're gonna see a different winner, and it's only gonna be the 3rd winner of the season.
Yeah, bizarre to think that we've only had 2 winners so far out of 8 races. We're on to our 9th, we're still looking for our 3rd. That is bizarre to think. Steph, meanwhile, then up into 2nd place as Kelvin's pitted for a set of soft compound tyres. So look out for that. That is a crucial factor in this race, that he's clearly going for a 2-stop strategy in this race. He's going to have to be fast on these soft compound tyres from here on out if he wants this strategy to work, and he's going to come out just in some clear air. He's going to be ahead of Stinner, I think, just in the Alpha Tauri, so he'll be okay. For 11th place on the road, 4 seconds behind Jan. He's got to push now as Funky Chicken, the next driver, with a time penalty in 8th place. So that advantage he did have on the drivers in front has now gone. Nolan has overtaken his teammate Secret DJ Jill as well, and is up into 6th place and onto the back of Graham for 5th. Graham, since being overtaken by Hero Jokin, hasn't let Hero Jokin escape up the road, so they're all still fighting quite hard. Nolan thinking about a move into turn 6, but just not a deep enough braking zone for him to try that late dive into that corner, so he's not able to get that move done. Crucially here though, we're on to lap 16 of this race, so we're only about 4 or 5 laps away from where Old School could theoretically pit for a set of medium compound tyres to the end, and he's still yet to be overtaken by anybody. His teammate is right behind him, but if we get to lap 20 and it stays with only Steph ahead of Old School might have driven himself into a podium position with this strategy.
Yeah, he might have. If he can keep his tires in check and go onto the softs, he probably will end up on the podium. And to be honest, I didn't expect. I mean, there's still half a race to go, but I didn't expect that when we started this race.
No, I definitely didn't as well. I knew that the Old School would obviously gain a lot of places as Nolan is working his way back through. He passes Graham now in towards turn 1, is up into 5th place as Steph has got the move on his teammate lets him through. So Steph then up into the race lead once again, and Old School drops to 2nd. I expected Old School to gain a number of places, but I didn't expect on the hard compound tyres him to be this strong. And we're halfway through this race now nearly, and he's still running in 2nd place. So it has been a very strong race so far. He's now got a 5-second gap back to Steve. It's going to be a long time before Steve closes in that gap. So Old School with a really good opportunity here of maybe picking up a 2nd place if he can keep with the back of his teammate. And actually isn't losing any time to Steve in the middle part of the lap, which is where you would expect Steve to be faster. So at the moment it is looking really, really solid for the 2 Williams cars at the moment. Steve just not quite fast enough really to try and make this strategy work. I mean, with Steph's penalties, Old School could still win this race. So Old School could pick up his 6th win in 9 races. Who knows? We'll wait and see how this one pans out. Behind Steve, Hero Jokin is now starting to just about close in on the Renault driver in front. It was 4.5 seconds a lap ago. Well, a couple laps ago. It's now down to 3.9. So Hero Jokin starting to close in a little bit on the Renault in front and is dragging Nolan with him. They have now started to drop Graham, who is now under pressure from Secret DJ Jill and Funky Chicken. So that earlier pit stop may have cost him a bit of time on his medium compound tyres. They might not be as strong as they could have been, but in terms of raw speed, even though he's got no penalties, raw speed-wise, I don't think Graham's quite as fast as the people around him.
No, he isn't, but he's definitely compensating on those penalties. Everyone around him has a penalty except Jan, and he's 6 seconds behind him. So, and probably as we still have half a race to go, some people will pick up some extra time penalties. So I'm not counting him out for a top 5 finish yet.
Yeah, I'm definitely not counting him out either at the moment. The top 5 is still well on the cards. Nolan has passed Hero Jokin up into 4th place, but in that process is now a further 2nd behind Steve, so they have lost a bit more time in that battle, maybe trying to get up to Steve for 3rd place. Hero Jokin very wide there, coming out of the S section, gets away with no penalty, but that's definitely some sort of warning for the Ferrari driver. Behind these guys, David has become separated, but we can't count him out of this race just yet either. Remember, he's on the hards. Going to the end of the race on this strategy is looking pretty decent on the hard compound tyres. He's dropped time to the drivers in front, as you would expect with them being on the softer compounded tyres, but he's only 3 seconds behind, and he's still 3 seconds clear of his teammate Jan, who is holding Kelvin up quite nicely at the moment. Kelvin hasn't been able to get the move done on the Mercedes driver, which I think he should be about to do this lap by the looks of things, but at the moment David on the hard compound tyre is doing a pretty solid job.
He does, same as Old School and Nolan. He's trying something different, going for the hard tyres, doesn't have to stop anymore. Everybody around him has to do another pit stop to be able to finish this race. So really in a good position to finish up high. In another way, as we've seen in Bahrain, I really thought he was going to do something special on the tires, but it's just going for the ultimate strategy and driving his own race.
Yeah, driving his own race, like you say, doing a good job, and it's actually closed in a little bit on this lap because Graham has now been overtaken by Funky Chicken as well. So Graham has dropped from 4th on the road to 8th on the road in the last few laps, but still without a penalty would jump all of them if the race ended now. So doing a certain job, not wasting time battling people when he doesn't need to. Jan still holding Kelvin at bay as well. Kelvin, despite the fresher tyres, hasn't got the move done. He's going to look for a move though down into the stadium section, is incredibly late on the brakes. Jan backs out of the move, but that will give Jan the DRS coming down the pit straight, and Jan has plenty of DRS in his back pocket to use should he need to. As further up the field, Nolan into the pit lane for the 2nd time, and his teammates followed him in, so that is disaster for Secret DJ Jill. After a prompt wing change in the first stop, worked his way back into contention quite nicely, but pits on the same lap as his teammate. He's going to get massively held in the pits, and that is DJ Jill pretty much out of the running.
Yeah, it is. You get held up just multiple seconds, and I've been in the same situation once, and as you're looking in on the back of your teammate, you're just yeah, pounding on your steering wheel, thinking, I am dumb, I am dumb.
Yeah, it is such a shame. Look how much time he's dropped. It's about 10 seconds behind his teammate now. It's such a massive time loss that he's had in that pit stop phase, which is going to drop him right into this battle of people we're watching right now with Kelvin and Stinner when they all pit in this the next time in this race as well. So well out of contention, unfortunately, for Secret DJ Jill, especially with the penalty still looming over him at the moment. Kelvin has managed to pass Jan, so has Stinner. Jan on his 14-lap-old medium tyres, the older tyres in the field at the moment. He's really struggling on those tyres, and you can tell at the end of the S section having to massively back off the throttle. Old School into the pit lane then, so he's in for, assuming, a set of medium tyres from this point in the race. It's the safe option, but he only really needs to go for the safe option. He doesn't have a penalty, he's still right behind his teammate, and if he pits now, there's a possibility in this race that Old School could end up undercutting and jumping his teammate on track.
Yeah, that would be something. Undercutting Steph on the medium tires, and they're both on the same strategy now. Or Steph needs to go on a couple of laps as Jen and Sean are now side by side.
Well, they're back with Old School here, going into the first corner. I think Sean tried to go for the down the move at the inside of Old School, and Old School flat out slammed the door on the Red Bull driver, and Sean has spun off the side of him and gets a penalty in the process as well. So Old School holds that 9th, but that costs Sean big time. He spins down the field, down to 12th. It possibly could be 13th by the end of this straight, with Kiki right on the back of him as well. Old School's only possible person in front of him that could steal this race away from him at the moment is David. Who's in 6th place, who is holding a steady enough gap. He does have a time penalty, unfortunately, looming over his head, but Old School could still pick one up himself, and Old School's got 2 drivers in front of him that could cause a problem for him.
Yeah, but yeah, as I said, really curious what Steph is gonna do on his final stint, if he's gonna go for the softs. I think if I were him, I would defend and go in now. And put on another set of mediums to the end of the, because I think if he's gonna go a bit longer onto the softs, he's gonna just lose too much time on Old School.
That definitely looks like the case at the moment. Old School already with a great outlap out of the pit lane. Graham's into the pit lane for a set of medium compound tyres. Jan is also in as well, so they've come in. Graham's going to come out in a nice amount of clean air, looking to maybe jump the drivers like he did in the first set of stops, so he's out in 14th place. Secret DJ Chill just proving that fresh tyres are strong. Fastest lap of the race is 16.1 from him. Still in 15th place. Graham, though, has lost a considerable amount of time to also get Nolan in the pit lane. Nolan well up the road now, nearly 5 seconds up the road from Graham after that pit stop, only 2 laps ago. So just goes to show how powerful the undercut is at this circuit. Steph leads on track then. Steve has just picked up his first penalty of the race, so his chance of possibly winning is definitely out the window at this point in the race. Steph, though, compared to the rest of the drivers, you've got to say both of the Williams cars have looked the class of the field so far today. Steph 8 seconds clear now of Steve. This is much more like it from Steph. This is much more what we saw this time last season, but unfortunately the penalties here could cost him massively, and he's staying out another lap.
Yeah, and it's not only 8 seconds, it's 8 seconds leading over Steve, and that gap just keeps on building. So he's doing a good thing, and yeah, as a side note, what's the last time you saw Williams in a P1 and P2 in a race?
God, you got to take that back. Well, the last time they ran P1 and P2 has got to be that amazing Silverstone race in 2015, when they both had amazing starts off the line. But yeah, to think about them competitively being at the front and holding that position, it's been such a long time since we've seen that. The early 2000s, the late 90s, really the last time we saw that. Hopefully we see that more in the future. But yeah, Steph, really strong race so far. Steve must be feeling pretty bored at the moment in second place. He's now nearly 9 seconds behind our race leader and is still 4 seconds clear of Hero Jogan, who hasn't been able to close in on him. And Funky Chicken's been the only one that's able to keep up with him at the moment, now that everyone has started to make their pit stops. David runs in 5th place. And still, actually, to note for David, this strategy could work quite nicely for him, because Old School was about 6 seconds clear of Steve. Steve staying out a few laps longer. David's still got good pace on these hards. Now it's a case of, can David maybe hold on to a podium position here?
Yeah, that could possibly happen. I mean, if Steph loses too much time compared to Old School and David in the end, as Steve is going in now for the undercut on Steph, but I think he's too far behind. But yeah, and he comes out in traffic. David could get a podium at the end of the race.
He could do, yeah. Just look at this. Steve coming out of the pit lane, the net third if you include Old School in all of this. Look how far behind he is compared to David. With 13 laps to go in this race, he's actually come out behind Nolan as well. Come out behind Nolan and Sean. So Steve has been undercut by Nolan in all of that, amazingly. Nolan's undercut was so strong that he's ended up ahead of the Renault driver. So Nolan is really the next person that challenges David for that podium spot. And he is a good distance behind the Mercedes driver, nearly 10 seconds behind. With only 13 laps to go in the race, and Nolan with the oldest set of medium tyres of the people that have already pitted for a second time. So we've got a yellow flag in the first sector. Let's see who that was for. I think that's for maybe Jan in the first sector, who's had a moment, unfortunately, down in 17th place. A disastrous race so far for the second Mercedes, but at least for David here, if he's got enough strong pace, if he can hold pace towards the end on these hards, third could be his.
Yeah, definitely, and yeah, Nolan just too many penalties to be in contention of that. So I don't think I'm not counting him in, but yeah, David could, and especially because Old School is right behind him and probably gonna pass him here if he can keep up with Old School, just keeping his DRS. He is in the sweet spot at the moment.
He definitely is, yeah. If he can do that, that would be really, really good for his race. Old School looking to the inside for turn 1, but he's not close enough on the brakes. They don't really have a lot of ERS. Either of these drivers don't have a lot of ERS to their hands, so they're not quite able to challenge each other down the straight. Old School might have a run towards turn 4, but I don't think it's close enough. Didn't have a good run coming out of 3, so David's actually going to hold that 4th place coming down into this corner, so that's good defending there for the Mercedes driver. That worked quite nicely. It was fast in all the right spots, and it was able to hold on to that 4th place. And it's interesting to note as well, our championship leader Old School and Graham, the only 2 drivers without penalties in this race. Not a shock for Graham, really. Graham has been incredibly consistent as all the races he's taken part in, and not a shock as well for our championship leader. That is why he is our championship leader. Incredibly fast, incredibly consistent, and Kiki, look at that, just moving clean out of Graham's way. So Graham up into 12th place. Graham has become a bit detached from Nolan and Steve in these last few laps, but still has a penalty advantage over them. So if he can get within 3 seconds of Steve, he can nick that place off of him, and Nolan obviously with a few penalties as well, as Sean has spun again. So we spun in the middle part of the lap now through the S section on those soft compound tyres, and his race really has fallen apart. Those soft tyres are absolutely cooked.
Yeah, they are. Back tyres probably 110 plus degrees, so yeah, 9 laps is a lot to ask on these tyres. Sean definitely not having fun today. The leader is in, I believe.
Yeah, leader is in, and Old School meanwhile at the same time. David in towards turn 1. David tried to fight the move but just didn't have the grip to pull it off, and now Kelvin has caught these guys. Steph into the pits, does go for a set of softs but has been jumped by Old School, so he's got to catch Old School, re-pass him and gain 6 seconds on it if he wants to win this race, which is going to be a massive order for him to pull off in this race. Tom runs in 5th place at the moment. I actually completely missed Tom here. Tom's also gone for the hard compound tyres, having run on the mediums at the start, so he's thrown himself right into the ring here as well in the McLaren, running in 5th place. Nolan behind him in 6th. It's the first person who's on a 2-stop strategy to get close to him. So Tom right in the thick of this battle as well, and Tom could be David's best friend here. If Tom can hold Nolan up, David could secure a podium position if he's able to do so. So that could work out quite nicely. Graham's managed to get past Flores, and in that as well, Graham is now ahead of Hero Jokin and Funky Chicken. They've all gone for the softs, have Hero Jokin and Funky Chicken as well. But you've got to say, on track at least, they've lost too much time, because Hero Jokin and Funky Chicken, look how far behind Nolan and Steve they are now.
Yeah, they're probably too far behind those guys. The only one who could afford to do it is Steph, as he's not that far behind. What I'm saying now, he's in front of David now, and on the back of Old School. So yeah, he's the only one who could afford to go on a bit longer and put on the softs on the race car.
Yeah, the only one, like you say, that could pull that off. Kelvin, meanwhile, into the pit lane for a second time. Is going to come up behind Stinner in 13th place, while the McLaren driver, and Steph has gone for the lead of the race. So I think Old School's just let his teammate through. Steph's into the lead, so he's now got 10 laps to try and build a 6-second gap. So we'll wait and see what he can do in this race. It's not over for Steph, still looking for that first win of the season. Can he pull it off? As it stands as well, remember, Old School, if he finishes here, will win the championship. He only needs a top 5 finish in this race to pick up that championship win, and That's without a pole position or a fastest lap as well, which he didn't get. He hasn't got pole position very clearly, and he will not be getting fastest lap as it stands in this race. He's already dropped out of DRS range to Steph, so the soft tyres look very strong straight out of the gates, but at the moment at least, not proving enough at the moment maybe for Steph to try and pull enough of a gap. They have dropped David, who's out of their DRS range, but David now looking pretty solid in that third place slot, and Steph with a 15 flat, by far the fastest lap of the race, so that is at least going to be held for some time. Tom in fourth then in the McLaren on the hards. Nolan nearly within DRS range of the McLaren, but not quite. Steve in sixth. Hero Jokin has passed Graham and is up into seventh, so now it's up to Hero Jokin to close in and catch the two cars in front.
Yeah, and David he's already 16 laps on these tires, and he has what is it, 8.5 laps to go?
Yeah.
So I hope he doesn't blow up his tires. So yeah, he really needs to nurse his tires home now, and better to finish in third and then try, or fourth, than to push on these tires and get them over the cliff.
Yeah, I have to see how many penalties this man actually has. I'm not quite sure how many he's got. He's got 6 seconds of penalties, so, and Nolan with 12, so like I said, Nolan is pretty much out of the game, so he doesn't really have to worry about the Alfa Romeo. His biggest threats in this race are Tom, as Nolan picks up another penalty. His biggest threats in this race are Tom, who's only got 1 penalty behind him on the road, and then Steve and Hero Jokin, so he doesn't have to worry about Nolan. He's just got to keep his eye focused on the McLaren directly behind him on the road, and Steve in 6th place at the moment. Those are his biggest challenges, so that is going to be one thing to look out for. And now Hero Jokin's pretty much taken himself out of the equation now, as he gets another penalty himself. So that is one best person for David to worry about. And at the moment, Tom looking a bit faster with fresher hard compound tyres is now under pressure from Nolan. But if Nolan passes Tom and Tom can keep up with the Alfa Romeo driver, Tom possibly could end up on the podium. So I haven't got a clue who's going to end up getting this third place. I think the 1-2 positions are pretty much said and done. It just depends on what order by the time this race finishes. It looks like it could be an easy Williams 1-2, but this third place is anyone's guess.
Yeah, it is, and yeah, I can say now I'm really glad you didn't ask me for who I thought were going to end up on the podium, because I just couldn't have predicted this, and I'm still not sure who are the 3 names who are going to end up on the podium.
Yeah, I'm not sure even myself. I haven't got a clue who's going to end up getting this third place. I think I can pretty much say it's not going to be Nolan with the amount of penalties he now has with that 15 seconds. You can pretty much rule him and his Alfa Romeo teammate Secret Digital out of that equation as well. They're both very high on penalties, so that is definitely some drivers you can rule out of it. But Tom still in a good shout here, can use Nolan to pull himself closer to David, as Kiki's been disqualified for picking up too many penalties. So Kiki completely out of the race now. That is a disaster for the Renault driver, who has been very much in the shadow of his teammate tonight. Steve has been much faster here this evening. Steve, though, on his medium tyres, they're fresher than Nolan's, but he can't keep up with the Alfa Romeo and is barely closing in on the McLaren as well. So Steve not looking fast enough at this point in the race to get close enough to David to really make that much of a threat in his race. So Tom looking like a bigger threat at the moment. Hero Jokin with too many penalties himself, and Funky Chicken as well on the softs, just not making enough progress. I say that he's about to pass Secret DJ Jill for 8th place on the road, gets down the inside and gets moved on for 8th place quite easily, but he's just not fast enough on the softs. He's lost too much time to Hero Jokin, and with all the pit stops that how they've played out, Graham now is actually too far back from some of these drivers to really gain on them.
Yeah, I thought he maybe had a chance, but yeah, just not fast enough this race. But it is refreshing to see a race that's going to be, well, decided on tire strategy and pit stop strategy, because we had a couple of races decided by late safety cars, a couple of races where just the guy in front was too fast. This is something, I think it's the first time this season we have where tire strategy is so important in a race.
It definitely is, as I believe Valores has had a spin, unfortunately, in the middle part of the lap. I don't know if he's picked up any damage. He hasn't by the looks of things, but he continues on, just trying to score the points. But yeah, like you say, all of our top 5 drivers all on very different strategies at the moment. Steph, obviously, soft, medium, soft from the pole position. Old school one, hard to mediums from the back of the grid. David, soft to hards. Nolan, soft, medium. And now Tom on the medium hard strategy himself. So a real mix of strategies. And now Nolan is now only 1.8 seconds behind David, and Tom has done exactly like I said he would. He's stuck in DRS range of Nolan in front and is dragging himself into contention. He's now within 3 seconds of David, only has the 1 penalty, does the McLaren. So Tom, having lagged out of the session at the start of the race, not been in his car for the first lap, dropped to last place, now looks like he could be on for a podium.
Yeah, incredible. It's David, Tom, what is it? Steve maybe. Yeah, P3 it's just a guess for me.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, Steph already 6.2 seconds, 6.3 seconds in front of Old School.
Yeah.
But he has 9 seconds worth of penalties, so still needs 2.5 seconds.
I didn't realise they actually picked up that third penalty, unfortunately. But like you say, Steph then now has to gain a bit more time, but he is doing a good job at the moment in the lead of this race. Has been the fastest man here tonight, but Old School from the back of the grid. Another sterling performance from the Williams driver, and that is exactly why he is our championship leader. I think it's fair to say that this might be Old School's last season in Division 3 based on this season so far, but a secret DJ Jill has decided to come into the pit lane at the end of lap 32. At the end of lap 31, a very bizarre decision, but I think with the amount of penalties he had, he was going to drop pretty much all of those places anyway, so I think he's going to come in and try and set the fastest lap of the race at the end of this one. So we'll wait and see what he can pull out of the bag. That saves a few drivers places on track, so that's at least good for some of these people in this race then. Steph, our race leader, by nearly 7 seconds. Old School himself now 7 seconds ahead of David, and Nolan is now right up behind the Mercedes driver, has dropped the McLaren of Tom, and all of a sudden Tom has got Steve and Hero joking all over the back of him.
Yeah, so anybody's guess so far, but could be that Nolan gets held up by David a bit, and Tom can get on the back of those two again and stay with them. But yeah, this is going to be in the
Hero joking, trying to go for the move here, so is Nolan on David, and Hero joking around the outside of Steve on the way into the stadium section, gets the move done. So a lovely move from Hero joking up into 6th place. Then he's right on the back of Tom now. Remember, Hero joking does have 1 more penalty than Tom does at this point in the race. Nolan's up to 3rd, but he has 15 seconds of penalty, so that is hanging over his head, and it's not really going to help him in this battle at all. He'll drop behind all of these drivers when this race finishes as it stands. In fact, he'll drop behind Graham as well, who's currently running in 9th, so that's how much time he's going to lose. David now can maybe use his DRS to try and keep close to the back of the Alfa Romeo driver in front and pull him along. Tom's back within DRS range of David now. Hero joking on the soft tyres is flying at this point in the race, but he's got 2 penalties, which might not help him, but he's still going to go for a move on Tom here, down towards turn 4. If Hero joking can get past David, that saves him a place on track at least. David and Hero joking with the same amount of penalties, and Hero joking is going to drive clean around the outside of the McLaren and is up into 5th place. So at the end of the race, actually, despite coming in a few laps later, the soft tyres at the end of the race at least have looked incredibly fast.
Yeah, and they hold on longer than in the middle stints, because obviously the car's lighter, so you can see in this middle section, in the S section, how much more grip he has compared to David, and David loses heaps of time on Nolan. So yeah, David probably gonna fall back. Ooh.
Oh, that is such a shame. I just caught that. I was about to change camera, but David having such a good race, and Hero joking just plain and simply outbroke himself into the hairpin and just ran clean into the back of David, and that has put David well down into 7th place now. That is such a shame. His Mercedes teammate Jan has spun in the middle part of the lap as well. That is such a shame for David, who's been running such a strong race. 3 laps from the end, he's taken out.
Yeah, it is, and that's just the difference in grip between the hard tires and the soft tires at the moment. Yeah, really unlucky event, but yeah, Tom and Hero joking profiting of this, and maybe Steve, because I think these guys haven't decided who's going to pick up 3rd.
Yeah, they still haven't been able to work that out. Like you say, Steve and Tom at the moment is the battle between. They're both on 3 seconds of penalties. DJ Jill has been disqualified, so our second driver disqualified for a number of penalties. Now 29 seconds of penalties he had to his name, so no surprise there. Nolan as well with another penalty, so he's closing in on his disqualification in this race with only 2 laps to go. Steve now, if he wants this 3rd place, has got to get past Tom on the road. He's got to do it as quickly as possible. He's not quite close enough down into the stadium section, but crucially for him, Tom is out of DRS range to Hero joking Jokin in front, which is not what Tom needs here. Tom is going to have to try desperately to hold on to this with 2 laps to go. It's going to be incredibly close, and Steve didn't get the best run off the last corner. Has Tom got enough ERS in his back pocket to really use it? They're both on kind of similar levels of ERS, so it's all about straight line speed down this pit straight, and Steve is looking like a much faster car in a straight line. He opens his DRS, and he's just going to breeze down the inside, so Steve up into 5th on the road, which should become 3rd place at the end of this race. Down up into 5th place then. Steve gets past Tom. A valiant effort from Tom. It's been such a strong race for him so far, but I think just the grip from those hard compound tyres is starting to escape him.
Yeah, they're already 19 laps old, and in the meanwhile, we haven't been on board with them much, but 8.8 seconds between Steph and Old School.
Yeah.
So those two haven't decided who's going to win the race as well. Which Williams is it going to be? Is it going to be Steph or is it going to be Old School?
Well, on the bubble at the moment, it looks like it should be Steph, based on how much Steph has pulled away in the last few laps, and God, look how far ahead of the rest of the field both for Williams are. So, my word, it has been a dominant display of driving here from Williams today. It has been a really, really strong race. And I tell you one thing here, if Hirajo can get a strong enough final lap, it's not out of the question that he could steal this 3rd place off of both Steve and Tom. It's not out of the question just yet. He's only got the 1 more penalty, so he needs a stonking final lap. And if he can pull it off, that could be a stunning end to the race for the Ferrari driver if he can pull that off. Graham's going to gain a few places as well on penalties. Funky Chicken should play in a couple of places. Actually, Funky Chicken's now going to have a run at David, whose tyres are completely gone after that contact with Hero Jokin. And Funky Chicken just breezes down the inside. No contest really. Up into 7th place then. That is 1 place safe to him, but I think Graham is going to be close enough to pass both of them on penalties when this race ends. So still luck out for Graham. Who knows, Graham could end up stealing this 3rd place. I mean, anything could happen at the end of this one. Anything happens, and Graham seems to be the king of stealing places at the end of this. I tell you what, Hero Jokin at the moment is doing a solid job of pulling away. And just to compound things, at the front of the field on the final lap of the race, while he's in penalty range, Old School picks up a penalty. So that has pretty much sealed the deal for Steph at the front of the field. It's been such a season of disappointment for Steph so far, but it looks like as he heads into the stadium section, he might finally pick up the win he's been destined for. He looks so strong. Last season was one of the highest point scorers in the championship, despite missing the opening few rounds of Division 3 last season, was still a championship contender. Finally, Steph is going to pick up that 1st win of the season, and finally, another winner this season, our 3rd different winner this season at the 9th round. Steph picks up his 1st win of the season. Old School, though, grounds the final corner in the Williams, and he is going to be our Division 3 Season 3 champion with 2 rounds to spare. What a season from Old School. It's been an utterly dominant season from the Williams driver. That battle for 3rd place is won by Steve, who gets 3rd in the end ahead of Hero Jokin. Tom has got a massive penalty for some reason of 34 seconds. He's dropping down the field, so that is not going to be representative of where he ends up. He should be 5th he should be 4th or 5th in this race, should Tom, but he's dropping half a minute at the moment. That is such a shame to see, so hopefully he can get that sorted. Graham then will be 6th in this race ahead of Funky Chicken 7th, David 8th, Nolan 9th, and Kelvin should round off the top 10 once everything is sorted. But talking points of tonight, Steph finally gets his 1st win of the season, and Old School is our Division 3 champion.
Yeah, well deserved for Old School, especially with the dominance he showed last race and just throughout the season. But Steph, he didn't get it for free today. It is that Old School picked up a penalty late, but he was really, just driving on edge on his last soft stint, and deserved the win today, in my opinion.
He definitely did. He was very, very fast, and that is by far Steph's strongest performance of the season. You've got to say that definitely Steph, we said at the start of the stream, Steph has been looking for that standout result so far this season. He's been consistent, has been at every race, hasn't had that strong standout race that we remember him for. This is the one though, it's his 1st win of the season. And finally, we have someone other than Old School and F1 AMG winning this season.
Finally. It took us, what is it, round 9?
Yeah. My word.
9 rounds.
Only 2 rounds to go in this season. We've only had 3 winners, but yeah, massive shout out to Old School. What a dominant season it has been for the Williams driver. Last season he picked up 1 win last season, was running at the bottom end of the top 10 for the majority of it. What a turnaround this season it's been for the Williams man. Utter dominance. Has been on the podium at every single round apart from 1. Absolutely dominant display. And F1 AMG not here tonight, isn't able to sustain the championship battle into next week. So Old School is our champion. Here's the full run through of the finishing order then. Steph wins from pole. Old School from last on the grid ends up in second. Steve gets his first podium, I believe, of the season in the Renault. Hero joking for the head of Graham in fifth. Funky Chicken, David, Nolan, Kelvin and Flores round off the top 10 ahead of Uncle Ben's Rice and Tom. Tom should be up in about 4th or 5th place, but he had a bit of a timing glitch at the end of that one, so that's not representative of where his finishing position will be. Langfeld and Sean directly behind them as well, and I believe they were the only finishers from that race. It was a pretty chaotic race from start to finish, a number of disqualifications, a lot of mistakes from a lot of drivers, but both Williams utterly dominant today, and a hand to Steve as well for his, I think, his first podium of the season.
Yeah, great from Steve. He showed glimpses of it, but yeah, great driving from him, and as well, just like the other podium sitters, well deserved, and I think well needed for him as well. A good result.
Yeah, and it blows everything wide open at the moment. I say it blows everything wide open. That performance from Steph could have just sealed him third in the championship now. He was third going into this one, and now a win could be a massive boost for him. So that could be Steph sealing third in the championship. So that close battle we were talking about so much at the start of the stream might already be over. Who knows? There's 2 rounds to go, so anything could still happen. But my word, another great race tonight, and we have crowned our champion 2 rounds early in only an 11-round season. Just goes to show how dominant Old School has been. Utterly dominant display, and I believe that is Old School's first ever league title, so that is another thing to shout about as well. Finally, he's picked up his first online league title, so he'll be shouting about that. I know him quite well actually, so I know he's going to be shouting about that for quite a long time. So that's going to be fun to listen into for the next probably 3 or 4 months. But still, absolutely dominant season from him, and very likely at this point, if not almost certain, that he'll be moving up into Division 2 next season if he decides to continue on. And based on how dominant he's been in Division 3 this season, you've got to say he's a good shot for a high position in Division 2 next season.
Yeah, because I don't think obviously Division 2 drivers are faster, but I don't think that gap is too big. We saw it before with, for instance, Mashiro, who didn't even win a championship here, I believe, but the season after he won the championship in Division 2. So yeah, and seeing Old School performing the way he does, and that's performing every week, consistent. Yeah, I would give him a good chance fighting up for a high position in Division 2.
I would as well. And last season's Division 3 champion Isotopic now running in Division 2, running inside the top 10 in points, so still very competitive. If you move from Division 3 to Division 2, the gap, like you say, isn't really that big, so a lot to play for if they move up into the championship. If he moves up in Division 2 next season, I believe B. Morgan as well, who was a front running figurehead in Division 3 last season, is in the top 10 in points as well in Division 2. So Old School could move up and repeat the same feat as then this time next season. That would be great to see. Still 2 rounds to go this season, so still a lot to play for, especially in that battle for third, maybe now fourth in the standings. So a long way to go. We've still got 2 rounds left, 2 weeks of racing in Season 3, and this time next week we head to USA for the next round of the season, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, no, we don't. I'm looking at the wrong calendar. We move to Brazil this time next week. Yes. So I'm looking at the completely wrong calendar. So yeah, we go to Brazil this time next week. So a nice short circuit, a circuit with a lot of overtaking and a high possibility of rain. So Brazil could be a great race. How do you feel about the Interlagos circuit?
Yeah, lovely track. It's kind of difficult if you're not using ABS. But yeah, it's a lovely circuit. It's a lot of corners, slow corners, massive straight at the end, with a little kink in it, but it's practically a straight with overtaking opportunities. So yeah, I always love it there, and especially just because it's so short, it's time's flying by when you're racing around the track.
It really does. Yeah, the race absolutely flies by, like you say. It does go by in a flash. It does that race, so that is going to be a great race to watch. So that is where we're going to round off the stream today, guys. Thank you so much once again to everyone that tuned into the stream, that commented on the stream. Thank you to all the drivers that have taken part in this race as well, and congratulations to Old School on his Division 3 title. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Tune into League Racing TV for the rest of the week as well. Divisions 4 and 5 will be taking place tomorrow at 8 PM as per usual. Cheer on Conti. Unlike usual, you don't really know what the best strategy is going into the next race, because almost every strategy under the sun was run today. I'm amazed we didn't see someone try the wet tyres in the dry conditions. It was so all over the place. So It's going to be a bit of a shot in the dark maybe for you tomorrow, but I'm sure to be a really strong, a really good race as well tomorrow. So tune into that one, and obviously we're back this time next Thursday for the next round of the season, round 10 of the season. Obviously Division Run runs on a Tuesday, EML Formula 1 and Formula 2 runs on a Wednesday as well. So tune into that this time next on Wednesday next week at 7 p.m. for Formula 2 and 8 p.m. for the top tier of Formula 1. So that tune into those next week. But from myself and Conti, it is thank you so much for joining us once again, and we will see you in a week's time. Goodbye.